Welcome. Today we are solving PivotAPI from HackTheBox, an insane rated Windows machine. Before we go ahead and start, I'm going to just go ahead and mention that some of the aspects in this machine do relate to the Offensive Security Web Expert course and exam related to, say, DNSpy, which is C# decompiler and debugger, and other bits and pieces. For those interested in that kind of thing, I'm going to go ahead and timestamp the areas where there are some help, some bits and pieces for the OSWE exam that may help you. So yeah, I'll go ahead and do that, and hopefully it helps you. All right, cool. So moving on, go ahead and check out our Rust scan. We can see here there are a few ports. We have 21 for FTP, 20 for SSH, 53 for DNS, 88 for Kerberos, SMB, MSRPC. We have LDAP, and then if we go ahead and scroll down a little bit, we can see some further information about such ports. All right, so we have 22 for FTP, and we can see here that we have an anonymous allowed here. We have 22, very normal. We have SMB. We have some LDAP stuff here, and generally just Windows domain controller bits and pieces. So what that tells us is it's basically some kind of domain controller, or it's in a domain. Now, one thing to note when you are referring to that kind of stuff is if it is a domain controller, that opens up a few extra attacks. So, for example, if it is a standard Windows machine that just has, let's say, a web server and SSH open, you won't be able to do what's called ASREP roasting or any other related Kerberos attacks. Whereas since this is a domain controller, or at least part of the domain, those attacks now become possible if the machine is configured to allow that. So we'll come back to that later. But we'll take a look at the FTP and go see what's in there. So we can see there's some files in here, but I want to go ahead and download them and have a look at them. So we'll go ahead to FTP box, anonymous. Now the reason anonymous works is because basically the FTP is configured to allow an anonymous login. We can go to dir, and you'll notice immediately nothing actually gets printed, and that is because we're using non-passive mode. If I now type in passive and then run the same thing, we now can see the data. Okay, cool. So what I'm going to go ahead and do now is I'm going to go ahead and get it all, and then spam enter a bunch. Okay, that should have now worked. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and make a directory FTP out, and then just move all of the PDFs into FTP out. Okay, cool. Alrighty, so those are the files. xdg-open to open the current directory in Nautilus xdg. Okay, we can see here there's some PDFs. Basically, just some technical PDFs, nothing massively important in here. We can see here there's some notes and bits and pieces. Again, nothing really to look at. We did actually miss a file when we moved those files. If I go cd back one, we should see there's a readme in there. If I cat the readme, you will see that it says very important, don't forget to change the download mode to binary so that the files are not corrupted. Now, we'll refer to that later, but for now, let's go ahead and basically try and see if we can get any data from these files. So, as I mentioned before, this is a domain controller, or at least part of a domain, and therefore it has like Kerberos and stuff working. Now, often what you can do with Kerberos is you can do what's called an ASREP roast. Basically, if you know a username to a service or an account, sometimes Kerberos will respond with that user's hash. Now, if you don't know any usernames, you're kind of screwed. But if you know a few usernames, then you're okay. So I'm going to go ahead and cd back into my FTP folder, and then I'm going to run exiftool. And then basically take a look at the kind of output. So we're getting here warning invalid xref table, invalid xref table. Now, the way that exiftool works is it looks at the metadata of a file or anything that you pass it really. In my case, we're getting this error, and that's because we have downloaded the files using the passive download type. So if I now type in binary, and I then download everything again, I'm going to go ahead and just remove everything in here. Yes. Download everything again. Spam enter a bunch. Cool. And then move everything PDF to FTP out again. Move all the PDFs, PDF to here. Then now we run an exiftool. we will now have actual data. We can see here there's a creator and an author. All right, cool. So what I want to go ahead and do is grep for that kind of content. So there's a creator and an author. See what else there is in there. There's a publisher as well. Okay, so grep for creator. I'm going to go ahead and make this case sensitive and use regex creator or author, and then all the files in the current directory. Okay, cool. And then it's because it's a binary file. I need to actually let me exif out and then pass it to exif out, and then we'll now run this on the exif out. Okay, now we should have a bunch of data back. We have some bits and pieces: Safe, Björn, Gronseth, Kaorz, Alex, etc. Okay, cool. So I want to go ahead and strip this. I want to go ahead and use a cut. We'll do it on the delimiter of. We could probably just use the kill one we'll use, and then we want to take. Let's have a look at the first one. That gives us that. That gives us this, and we also want to remove the space if it's going to let us. It's not going to let us. No worries though. I'm going to go ahead and pass it into awk. And just basically take the second line that gives us there. There we go. Cool, so that all should now work. I'm going to go ahead and output that to names. Alright. cd dot, and then we're going to go ahead and put code names. Just to have a little bit of a tweak. So I see there's a Byron or Bjorn. I actually accidentally trimmed the name of that. That's my bad. I'm just going to go ahead and add in the $2 in there. Let me just check that it looks right. cd back in my previous directory. Have another go. Yeah, there we go. Now we have Björn Gronseth. Let me just check actually if I have how their name looks like. Is it a space? Doesn't matter massively. It's just a case of just knowing how their name is going to go. Byron Gronseth. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and just it should now give me what I want. Put space between there. Okay, that's fine. So go ahead and now pass it into names. Alrighty. So what I want to go ahead and do, and I'll have that, is basically just I want to remove the duplicate, so that's duplicate. I could probably pass this to sort actually. Let's go ahead and do that. Just a demonstration of obviously how you can do all the work pretty much in in your command line. Okay, so these are all the uniques. I'm going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to go ahead and just remove the Byron to give us that, and then go ahead and do the other way around. So now we have the Byron.g. It could be any like that. I want to go ahead and save that because that should be okay for now. Remove this one. Maybe we could put an underscore in there or something. Not important right now, but yeah. All right, so that looks okay to me. I'm going to remove these numbers. We don't need those. Don't need the Microsoft Word. We don't need the P script, and we don't need the unknown. All right. That should be okay. Let's go ahead and now use that. So now what we're going to do is use a thing called ASREP Roasting. Let's go cd backer directory. I want to go ahead and exit out of my FTP for the moment. I'm going to go ahead and type in get np users. I think it might be a uppercase G. Okay. So in my case, I'm going to go ahead and pass the names file to here, and then I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. Now, what we're doing here is we're basically saying we're passing these names to Kerberos and saying, hey, can you give me a hash for this user? And then we have to also specify the domain. So this is our user file. This is the DCIP, so domain controller IP, and then this is the domain. If we remove this domain, like if we mess the domain up, it probably will, it won't work. So if we then provide the right domain, it will then work. And we can get this domain in numerous places. I think it's shown a bunch down here, but a quite nice way to look quite nice way to get the domain is to use CrackMap. CrackMap, I like to basically just run like that. That might work. Yep, here we can see here by just running CrackMapExec SMB box, we can see here the name of it and the domain and that kind of thing, and also the version of SMB it supports. Okay, so now we have a hash. I want to go ahead and take this hash and write it down. So nano hash, cool. Paste that in there. Hit save. Now I want to do next is basically crack the hash. Simply, we want to go ahead and do John hash dash word list and then rock you and then dash show to tell us what it is after it cracks it. Let's remove the dash show for the moment and give it a second and we should have it cracked. Okay, cool. So now we can do John dash show hash, and now we have the password and it is Roper4155. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just save this here. So we have for the Kaorz user, I believe it was. For Kaorz. Yep. I'm going to go and be Kaorz. Alright. That'll do for the moment. And if you haven't already, go ahead and like and subscribe. Alrighty, so next on the agenda is to use the SMB that we had before. And we can now use this cred. So I think it's dash lowercase u, and then Kaorz, and then -p to then take the password. I believe we should have it in my clipboard. I do indeed. Let's go ahead and hit enter. And now we can see that this has now worked. If I go ahead and mess up the password, we should get an error. See? Okay, so moving on, I'm going to go ahead and just check what we have. I think it should be like dash list shares. Okay, I'm not sure. Maybe it's list share. Maybe it's shares. Okay, so this here is showing us the shares. It's saying that we have access to read the IPC share, net log on as sysvol. Okay, interesting. We can go ahead and do that. We can go ahead and basically enumerate that using CrackMap's SMB version, but I would rather just go ahead and take a look at myself. I'm going to go ahead and do SMB client. We go SMB client, then username, PivotAPI, and then list. Let me just go ahead and just clean this up a little bit. What am I doing wrong? Let me just check my notes, how I had this written before. Okay, right, there we go. So I'm gonna go ahead and just copy how I had it. It was basically the same. I just didn't like it. I think we can now do that, and then go to the password, which is Roper. Go to paste, and we should now have access. So we can go dir. Now I use netlogon because basically when I previously looked at the directories, let me go ahead actually and just go back once so you can see. Go ahead and add the -l in there. Perhaps it's down here I need to do. Okay, yeah. Paste. Yeah, so now we can see there's a net logon and a sysvol. Now we saw that in the previous SMB map output. Not SMB map, CrackMapEnum. And we hadn't really got any further. But what I can do is I can use SMB map to basically just pull down the same data. I'm going to remove the -a. Again, this is from before. Go ahead and just remove this. So this will basically give us the top level. If I do -r for recursive, it will then give us basically all of the shares that we can look at. While that's doing its thing, which it has completed, we can see basically that there's a few files here. We have restart-OracleService.exe in the sysvol. Lots of just group policy bits and pieces. In the box, I believe it's called active. Active on HackTheBox. I think group policy has some hidden passwords and stuff that you can decrypt. In this case, we don't need to. We can ignore most of that because it isn't relevant in this case. But there is some references to basically an exe, a message, and another message. I want to go ahead and download those. Now I can use SMB map, but for some reason SMB map seems to mess it up. I'm going to go ahead and use SMB client instead. Okay, let's go ahead and access that directory. Net logon, paste the password. Okay, go to dir, go to help desk. Okay. And I want to go ahead and get all. I believe it's get. Is it mget? Oh, it doesn't like me that it doesn't like them doing it directly. I'm using wildcards. I'm going to go ahead and basically download these directly. Grab that. And grab this. And grab that. Oh, I don't think I actually grabbed it right. Get. Paste. Doesn't like the spaces I'm using. Paste. Go ahead and grab the final one. This time wrapping it in quotes. Apologies, it's been a little bit flaky at the start. I'm just trying to get through to the juicy bits. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead now and exit. We should now have a few files. We have restart Oracle service, this and this. Let's go ahead and just make a directory for SMB. SMB out. Okay, and then move the messages into here. And then move the exe also into here. Okay, that should now be in here. Okay, so we can't read this data. If I go ahead and open this in code again, we'll go ahead and just close what we have already. Don't save. Yeah, we can save that, okay. Code. We can see here there's 3 files. We obviously can't read an exe. We can certainly try, but it isn't going to give us anything. We can't read message because it's basically binary data, you'll see here. Maybe there are some strings in here that you can pull out, but it's not very visible if at all. So we need to go ahead and basically extract the message. Now what we can go ahead and do is basically go ahead and use this out get installed libmail outlook to basically just extract the message. We can then do message convert and then all the messages. Now if we look into here, we should now have these EML files. If we look at the EML files, we can see there's a message, good afternoon, due to problems caused by Oracle database. Let's go ahead and view word wrap. Due to problems caused by the Oracle database, it's been decided to migrate to MSSQL. So that's Microsoft SQL Server or SQL Server, depending on how you say it. Remember that there were problems at the time of restarting our Oracle service, and for this reason, a program called Reset Service was created to log in to Oracle and restart the service. So I know based on that there's an exe that can log into Oracle. Then we have here, good afternoon. After the last pen test, we decided to stop externally displaying WinRM service. Several of our employees are the creators of Evil WinRM, I believe. Let's see. Oh yeah, the creators of Evil WinRM, so we do not want to expose the service. Basically, what that's saying is we can't use WinRM. And it also says we have also created a rule to block the exposure of the service, and we have also blocked TCP, UDP, and even ICMP output, so that no shells of the type INC, so that no shells of the type ICMP are used. Basically, what that means is we can't say we get files or whatever once we do get shell. And this is something I actually missed when I did the box. I didn't realize. So I spent a while trying to basically reverse shell, but it just didn't work. So yeah. Anyways, the main point right now is that we have an exe available to us that has some credentials in it. Now, this part is quite helpful for the OSWE. It includes basically some basically looking at an exe, decompiling it, and basically seeing how it works. Not so much decompiling in the sense, actually. That's the next part in probably about an hour's time when I get there. But yeah, still helpful nonetheless. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and move the file now. I'm going to go ahead and let's close this. We'll go ahead and xdg, open the current directory, and I want to go ahead and basically take this restart Oracle. Now, I'm not sure if it's going to let me do this, but I basically want to take this to my Windows machine. Is it going to work? Copy. Doesn't want to. Okay, no worries. What I can do is I'll go ahead and just move my Windows out of the way for the moment, and we'll move it over that way. Okay, it should now be separate. I'm going to go ahead and now just move it over. Okay, it somehow disappeared. I don't really know what happened there. It hasn't moved over to my Windows, and it has also deleted. No worries. I guess I'll just go ahead and download it again, which is, to be honest, a bit annoying. Did it? Where'd it go? It literally got deleted. Okay, that's fine. I guess I'll just redo it. That's annoying, but it's fine. Paste cd into help desk, and then just get this. Okay, cool. Exit. All right, let's have another go. Hopefully this time it actually works. Let's make a copy. Wants to copy over, that would be fantastic. Nope, not what I want. My Windows isn't liking me trying to move this across. You go ahead and try and move this. Come on, Windows, let me move it already. Okay, no worries. What I do is I'll just open up a Python web server and we'll host it that way. It's really not a big deal. Web, cool. And then I'm going to go ahead and move this in here. I'm going to go ahead and just pop this there. Close this. Cool. Go to directory listing. And then we should now have there. Let's go ahead and right click, save link as, save it into PivotAPI. Okay, cool. Alrighty, so we have the exe now, and I want to go ahead and look at it. Hopefully you can see this. Yeah, should be able to. So go to my desktop, go into my HackTheBox, go into PivotAPI, and then here we have the exe. Now I want to go ahead and basically see how it's working. Now I've already kind of done half the work here and done a little bit of basically malware analysis on it. So in the in here we have basically hybrid analysis. I just basically chucked the exe into it so you can see what it's doing. And you can see I left a little note. All right, so we should be able to now look at what it was doing. You should be able to. Perhaps it's this one. Okay, this is probably what it's looking at. Okay, so we can see here if we scroll down that it does a few things basically. It is creating a file, so we have a number.bat and some kind of content. So echo diff username cybervarker. Go to here xyz basically. So that was that. Okay. Based on that, what we need to do really is we need to go ahead and basically have a look at how this is working on our system. Okay, so let's go ahead over to Windows. Let's go ahead and just give it a run. Didn't create any local files, but if we look over to our Kali, it creates like this weird .bat file. I want to locate where this actually gets created. So one way to do that is basically to it's almost like man in the middle it. So I'm going to use CMDWATCHER. This tool basically lets us intercept the commands. I hadn't used this tool before, but someone on the forums or something recommended I use it. So I got a little bit stuck, and yeah, so it's actually a really good tool, and I advise using it. All right, cool. So I'm going to go ahead and hit start, and also set it to interactive mode. Manual mode is a bit annoying. Cool. So we've opened the application. Going to go ahead and resume process again. And nothing seemed to happen. Go ahead and run it again. Okay, so here we have actually let me just restart this because I think it glitched, and I don't really like glitches. I'd rather just start from fresh. Okay, so hit start, open the process, resume process, and here we have a file that's been created. Basically, what we're doing is we are executing a file here, and the file location is here. So go ahead and copy that, and go to it. I want to go ahead and look at the contents of the file, so we'll go ahead and open it with Notepad, go ahead and allow the process to go through. And this is what we saw in our hybrid analysis. You can see here, same sort of content. So go over to my Windows, and basically what's happening is it's saying if this username is equal to this value, then go to correcto. Now if we go ahead and open up a PowerShell instance, yes, resume. Actually, let me go ahead and yeah. I might have broke something there actually. Let me just restart this. Apologies, because I want to demonstrate something, but actually I might have broke it in the process. So let's just go ahead and just start this fresh real quick. I just wanted to explain how it works, but obviously my my interceptor is going to get in the way, right? CMDWATCHER. Okay, right. Go to there. Close this out there. All right, cool. So CMDWATCHER. Now, if I showed you before, in Notepad++, basically, it was saying like if percent username equals XYZ, then do something. So if I then go ahead and just echo username, or go ahead and echo username, you'll see that we're going to get a commando as output. Well, actually, in this case, it didn't actually work. That's because we're using PowerShell. Go ahead and echo the username. And here we can see consultant. If I go ahead and like echo, I don't know, username AAA, we're going to get consultant AAA. If I remove the E off the word username, we're going to get the user nam %, but if I have the E on there, it says consultant. So basically what it's doing is it's checking the current user is equal to like CyberVark or whatever. Okay, so now we can carry on. So let's go ahead and open it up again. We'll allow Explorer to run. I go to desktop, go to HackTheBox, PivotAPI, run this. Oh, no, we need to hit interactive, run it again. Run it again. There we go, right, cool. Resume process. Would be nice if it actually showed up properly. I mean, I'm gonna have to restart this again, aren't I? It's not going as smoothly as I'd hoped. Okay, hit start. And run. Resume process, right. Now we can go ahead and grab this, copy, go to my thingy, go ahead and resume that process, go ahead and go to the path, go ahead and open this in Notepad, resume process, and now what we need to go ahead and do basically is we need to go ahead and delete this, because what's happening is in our CMDWATCHER is we are intercepting it from running the bat file. We can go ahead and basically remove the pointx bat file. We can go ahead and remove all this crap. We can actually remove the goto part. So it just runs as normal, and then go right to the bottom of the file and remove the last little bit. Basically what's happening is this is encrypted text, or this is base64 encoded text, and we need to the code is basically taking that base64 encoded text and then converting it back into a binary. And if I go ahead and just delete these things, we can see basically what's happening. So what's happening is, actually let me go ahead and undo this. When we're running the script, basically it's taking the contents of this, echoing it to oracle.txt, and then we're then taking the contents of oracle.txt, base64 decoding it, and then passing it the name of restart-service.exe. And then once we've done that, we're then deleting it. Basically, it's cleaning itself up, which I don't want it to do. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the deletes. So what will happen is when I run this, it won't delete what is created. Now if I go ahead and check out where it's getting puts of program data, restart service, I go ahead and copy this so we can get back to it. Hit save on here. Just have a quick check that the content is still intact. Cool. Go ahead and close this, go to resume process. Now if we go to that directory, we'll see that there should be a, we can resume, we can go to stop here. There should be a file that gets created in a second or so called restart Oracle service or restart service. If I give it a second, it should be there. If it doesn't work, I will just restart this process again and hopefully it gets put in there. It's taking a second clearly. Okay, there we go. Now it has created it. So basically what it's doing is this oracle.txt is base64. This monitor is a PowerShell file, and what it will do is it basically takes every line of the base64 and decodes it and then writes it to the local system. Now, interesting enough, actually, we can take some of this code and use it later on. You see how it says like write bytes and stuff. I didn't do it this way later on, but this is interesting to learn how you can basically write a binary file to a local system from base64. It isn't important right now, but it's interesting to note for later. All right, cool. So moving on, we have this restart service. Now, what I want to go ahead and do is I want to go ahead and just see what happens if I run Wireshark. I go ahead and see what we're looking at. So right now we have some traffic on Ethernet 0. I don't know what that's from, but right now we have some bits and pieces. And what I want to go and do is basically run this restart service and check out the Ethernet. Actually, let me just go ahead and pause it. What I want to do is I can't remember how I did this now. Actually, I was basically looking into if it creates any network packets when I run that. But unfortunately, Wireshark is quite noisy right now, so it's gonna be hard to see. I was basically looking for an anomaly where the content zooms up, but it's being a little bit awkward. It's kind of hard to see. But basically, what I did is I had all these were flatlining, and when I ran this, nothing changed. So I was like, okay, obviously no network connections have been made. So I left it at that. That was obviously just a brief, is it doing network stuff, yes or no kind of thing. What we can do though is we can use a tool called API Monitor. Again, this is a tool I hadn't used before. Someone recommended it to me, so I'm using it. But it's quite straightforward, really. It's a case of just passing the process into it and then letting it run. Before I do that, though, I'm going to go ahead and just accept all these because basically, if you don't, it won't give you any of the API connections. Go ahead and just accept these. All right. Sweet. So go ahead and do that. One into new process and basically just pass the path in there. I think I might even have it in my paste. I do. Cool. Hit enter. Okay. So now we can see a bunch of API calls. Now, obviously, there's going to be like a million. If we step back a second and think, okay, what was it actually doing? So originally in our Kali, we had it referring to an Oracle thing. So due to issues caused by the Oracle database installed in the dir, decided to migrate to MSSQL at the beginning. Remember, there are problems at the time restarting. And then we used it basically in the exe. For some reason, my word wrapping has disappeared again, annoyingly, but basically it's using Oracle. So I know that Oracle's it's using Oracle, so I'm going to go ahead and basically search for the term Oracle. I'm going to go ahead and click here and just replace this capital O and just see what we're looking at, see if we actually get any hits. Okay, so we can see here we have a sys string length Oracle. If I hit next again, we see there's an underscore. See here, we're getting an S. Now, if we look here, we have crypt base thing going on. That kind of tells me that it's getting decrypted, and we can see the rest of the contents here. If I go ahead and hit next, we can see there's an S3 in there. There's an R. If I keep hitting next, we eventually see the password slowly get revealed to us. And we see here there's a create process logon. I copy this, open up the notepad, and paste it. We can see here SVC Oracle, #Oracle Service 2010. Okay, cool. So what have I found? I have a username and I have a password. So let's take this and let's pop back into Kali. Go ahead and drop it in here. All right, so just remove this stuff here because we don't need it. And that all should be okay. All right, so what do we have? So we have Oracle. We have Oracle, and originally when I did this, I was like, okay, right, sweet. So I have Oracle creds. And I was banging my head for like a while, and I was like, why isn't this working? And then I realized when I reread the thing, they migrated from Oracle to MSSQL. I was like, oh, maybe it's something else. So what I did then is I basically just modified, first of all, the name, because see, SVC Oracle isn't going to be the name used in MSSQL. It was SA, which I think stands for Security Authority or System Administrator. I'm not sure, but basically, if you Google the default root accounts, like admin accounts of MSSQL, you get SA. Okay, so this thing gets transferred into SA. And then I was like, okay, well, are they going to keep the password the same? I did try it with that and it didn't work. So then it became, I just copy this. It then became, I think it was MSSQL. I think it was MSSQL. We can try it anyways. Now, originally I used a tool called, I think it was like an in packet MSSQL client, I think it was called, like this. But I quite like CrackMapExec, so I use that instead because it turns out it actually supports MSSQL. You can see here. So I did that. So I did MSSQL. Okay. Then the username, in my case, which was SA. And again, when I did this is all trial and error. Basically, just go ahead and paste this in here. And then the password, which is this. Go ahead and single ticket and hit enter. And we didn't get any output because we haven't told it where to do it. So we go ahead and type in $box. Now I have an environment variable that references box. Here we have an error in Spanish, basically saying it is an authentication error. Just going to go ahead and check that the password is correct, that I copied it all right. That should be right, although I'm not quite sure. Okay, thinking about it actually, let me go ahead and just Google Translate. Go ahead and open this up to the full page so we can see it. Because it's in Spanish, we want to basically have a way to see. So, login failed. Login is from an untrusted domain and cannot be used with integrated authentication. Okay, I remember this now actually. What you need to do is you need to go ahead and add in the local auth flag. I think it's -- local auth. Go ahead and just minimize this. Still got the same error. Not quite sure why. Weird. That should work. To the best of my knowledge. Doesn't like the name SA, I guess. I don't know why that isn't working. Okay, that worked. I don't actually know what the difference was. Maybe I pasted it wrong before. Hashtag MSSQL, probably something MSSQL. I have no idea what I did wrong, but it's working now. This is the point. CrackMapExec box -u SA-p. I literally don't know what the difference was, but hey, it's working now. So who am I to complain? I honestly can't see the difference, but whatever. All right, so to try and keep the momentum, let's keep moving. So now we have access to the MySQL or Microsoft SQL Server. Now what we can do now is we can go in. I think we can look into help and see what else we can do. So within MSSQL, we have access to a few bits and pieces that we can use. In my case, we can do -x for a command or $X for a command. I want to basically test if this works, so I try with an X and I just do like simply who am I? And we get this response. MSSQL Express. Okay, interesting. What if I were to do, say, who am I /priv? Okay, that's working. So we have basically command execution, which is sweet. Now, as I mentioned to you before, I basically tried to get a reverse shell. So I tried to download a netcat shell. I tried to all the get stuff using stuff like this. So I was basically just doing like pweb encoder, pweb, let's do like 1339. Basically trying to like download a reverse shell and all this and that, and it wasn't working. In the end, it turns out you have to basically do some local system enumeration. At least that's how I did it. I'm not sure if there's an alternate way. But anyways, so the way to do this really was a case of I basically just, as I do whenever I get access to any host, is basically just look at where I am right now. So I did GCI, which basically just means like get child. I'm not sure. Get child items, I think. I'm not sure actually what it stands for. Basically, with a bunch of data here, I want to go ahead and cancel it. What does GCI stand for now? Get child something. Item. I think it's get child item. Okay, so that gave us a bunch of data. Let's go to say see users. See what users are on the machine. We have evasion, administrador. Now, because it's in Spanish, that's why it's administrador, not administrator. You have CyberVarka, DR.ZAIUS, Jari, Public, Superfume, and SVC MSSQL. Okay, so chances are we can't read any of these, any of the contents of the other user stuff, and it's quite hard to know for sure. So I know that I'm currently running as SVC. I'm currently running as my SQL service. So I'm going to go ahead and look at basically that. So MSSQL. No, it is SVC MSSQL. Okay, we got an error. Basically just not showing us actually anything anything useful there. Not quite sure why. Maybe because we didn't pass it an actual thing. If I do say a -r for recurse, we might get some different content. Doesn't seem to like that. Perhaps I broke something. Maybe I spelled it wrong. Let me go ahead and just look at the directory again. So we have, I want to go ahead and just copy this because I might have just spelled it wrong. Let's go ahead and now pass this in here. And then add in the -r5 for recurse. Okay, we're getting an error, unauthorized access error. Interesting. And that got me thinking, well, maybe the reason it isn't working is because we're running as, we're not running as this user. We're running as the whoami user. We go ahead and just show you that real quick. That isn't working because basically we're running as this user and not the SQL user. But it gave me a good insight anyway. And again, like it took me a while to realize this is like, why isn't it working? So the solution basically is to use basically a Windowsy way of executing a command as another user, basically like sudo or su to run a command as another user. So in like Linux, you do like, I think it's like su u and then whatever command you want to run. In Windows, it's got a very similar thing. So I'm going to go ahead and show that as an example now. I'm just going to go ahead and copy one from my notes. It's going to be that way we can check it. So I'm going to go ahead and just remove the command that I ran. So whoami? We should now see that we are running as the SVC MSSQL user. Okay, so I might skip a few steps there. Basically, what I'm looking at is in the users folder, there's an SVC MSSQL user, and I tried to access the folder of that user, but it didn't work. Then I realized maybe I can access that user by using the same password because it's the SVC service MSSQL and MSSQL service are quite similar. So I thought, maybe it's the same. So I tried that and it actually let me run the user. Now let's go ahead and look at the actual command that I ran to try and understand how it works. So once we remove all of the CrackMap stuff from there, we can see simply we have a few lines of code that have been appended to each other. Let me go ahead and add some new lines here. We have the first one. So here we're creating a pass variable. And in Windows, you have to convert passwords to a secure string. It's just a Windows thing. So this is the plain text password, and we're basically just storing it as a secure string in this object here. Then we have a credential. Basically, we're using this PowerShell to allow us to create a new credential object using this username and the password that we just previously set. Now it needs to be a secure string, otherwise it won't work. And then finally, we're then invoking a command as that credential. So here we're saying, here's a password that is stored securely. I want you to then sign in with that password and store that as an object. And then I want you to invoke a command using that credential. So here we have invoke command, and we're then passing the credential into it. We're then saying we want you to run it on this computer, and I want you to run this script block. And then just GCI, in my case, uses SCC recurse hidden. Okay, so in my case, I'm obviously using whoami, but the same kind of thing happens. But as you can see here, tells us we're running as SCC MSSQL. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead now and have a look at what is running. Look at the local file system. Go ahead and just remove the background so I can see a little bit better. Simply, you don't have to worry about this so much. Just look at this. So get child items of this directory. I want you to be recursive and show hidden files. Now, actually, I don't need to show hidden files in this case. It's important to make sure you're covering all bases, but actually we can achieve what we're after with just recurse, I believe. Just taking a drink of water real quick while that runs. It's taking a second, so I'm just going to go ahead and just skip a little bit ahead just so we can avoid wasting time. Basically, in the desktop directory, there's some files in there. Let's go ahead and look in them. Should be a bit quicker this time, hopefully. The reason it's slower is basically because we have to create this credential object and then run the command as that user, and it kind of slows things down. But it tends to take longer when you are having a large command in there. So, for example, you're listing the directory of something massive. In this case, we can see there are two files. Ignoring all this stuff at the bottom, we have a credentials.kdbx and a note.txt. Okay, so we can go ahead and read those. So I'm curious about the note. So note.txt, I'm going to go ahead and remove the GCI and type in type. What I will do is basically just print out the contents of note.txt. We give it a second, it should only take a sec. Cool. Long-running MSQL practice can cause issues. Please switch to SSH after getting credentials. What that means basically is if we can get the credentials, we can log in with SSH. Simply. Okay, we go ahead and now try and view the credentials. We can see here it's a KDBX. Now if we Google KDBX, it's going to tell us it's a keypass file basically. So what I need to do is I need to basically download the keypass file. Now I mentioned to you before when we were looking in this Windows thing about it using this, I might still have it in there, about it using, actually I don't think I do anymore, using basically a base64 decode to write a binary file. We can use very similar. I didn't in this case, because I use a different methodology, where simply I just use certutil. So I was basically trying to find a way to take a binary file and base64 encode it. Now certutil is used to basically, you can use it for a lot of things, but one of the things you can use it for is to create a certificate, and often certificates will be base64 encoded. But also often certificates, as they stand normally, are often binary files. So certutil has a nice way of handling binary files. Okay, so if we take a look at that, basically the case is now we want to go ahead and take a binary file. If I go ahead and just scroll to my to what I had on my notes, we can go ahead and basically just analyze how this works. So same sort of thing. The first half is all the same. The only thing that changes is certutil. In this case, what I'm doing is I'm using certutil and encoding this path, which is the credentials.kdbx, and then outputting it to the desktop as cred.base64. Okay, cool. If we go ahead and hit enter on there, we get certutil commando completo correctamente. Basically, in I guess it's Spanish, maybe it's Italian, I don't know. It's basically telling us that. Actually, looking at it more, maybe it is Italian. Basically, it's telling us that it worked. We can go ahead and now test that it worked by simply just using dir to say, hey, is it in there? Let's just put that dir, and then I don't want to look at the file directly. I just want to look at all the files in that directory and see what comes back. Go ahead and just give it a second, and it should come back to us. It would be nice if it would hurry up, but nothing I can do about it right now. Okay, it's showing that we have the cred.base64. If we go ahead and then view the contents of that, so type the name of the file, which will basically just print out like so, hit paste, and hit enter. It's going to take a few seconds, so in prep for that, I'm going to go ahead and create a new file. We're going to call it cred.b64, and we're going to store it in here. Okay. Still taking a second. We should get it in a second. Basically, what we're going to get is we're going to get a big lump of base64 data, for which we need to then remove the prefix, and then we should then have the big lump of base64 data. Following that, we then need to use John. I think it's John to key pass or something like that to basically get the hash equivalent of that key pass. The way that it works basically is John will, I guess, take a segment of the key pass data, get the key pass file, and basically hash it, and then you can then crack the hash and then get the password simply. It's a way of, I guess, brute forcing the password way quicker without actually having to use the key pass program. And it works quite well. It'd be nice if it would finish, but to be fair, it is a large file, so it's going to take a few seconds. While that is doing it, I'm going to go ahead and open up KeyPass, basically just so we can avoid wasting time. Yeah, so that's space trying to open up a file, no worries. Come on, come back to me already. I guess while it's doing that, I'm going to go ahead and prep for the next part. So we know the file is going to be called cred.base64. So what I want to go and do is I want to go base64-decode the cred, and then it's not going to work right now because we don't have any contents. But then we want to go ahead and then pass that to, say, creds.kdbx, which is the file extension for a keypass file. It really is taking a second, but taking a few more than a second at this point. And it's now finished. It took a while, probably like 5 or 10 minutes for it to run, but basically we should be good for now. So I have the certificate. Basically, this is the basics for encoded data that we need, and from there we can go ahead and just let's check my audio is working. Yep, cool. We can go ahead and basically take this content and base64 decode it. I'm going to go ahead and grab all the contents, copy, drop into here, and save. I'm going to go ahead and grab this bit and just basically remove it all. Okay, now we have a big lump of data. Now what I want to go ahead and do is I want to go ahead and do \n and set it to that, set it to be regex, yeah, use regex expressions, and then replace with basically nothing, so it all becomes one line. That just basically removes any, the new lines messing up the binary aspect. Okay, cool. So go ahead and base64 decode, and then go cd dot. Cool. That should hopefully work. I think it should be now John to key pass. I think it's like key pass to John or something like that. I'm not actually sure what the command is. Let me go ahead and just check my notes again because I believe it's should be here somewhere. Where are you? Key pass to John. Key pass to John. Okay, cool. And then you just basically give it the creds .kpdx. Unknown format file signature invalid. Did I break something on the way? Let me just read the contents. That looks quite small. Obviously something is glitched there. Just check that it's right. Cred.b64, okay. It's possible that I have base64 decoded the wrong content. I did indeed. It should be creds, and then pass that into I don't know, we'll call it like creds with 2 S's, which is just going to confuse everyone. All right, let me redo this. So this one's called cred.base64, cred.base64, and then creds.base64. Okay, that should now hopefully work. Okay, nope, still nothing. Go ahead and just have another look at it. This is unfortunate. Why aren't you base64 decoding properly? Probably an error on my end that I broke something. Where is this store? Oh, I know why this isn't working. This is because... Oh, no, it's in the right directory, okay. Cred.base64. Go ahead and cat cred.base64. Yeah, that looks right. Oh, it looks like it's got spaces in there, okay. obviously some kind of glitchiness going on. Let's go ahead and just check it out. It looks okay in here. I know there are some spaces. Okay, don't know really where they came from, but that's okay. We'll just replace them. Okay, hit save, and then have another go with it. Okay, I don't know where the spaces came from, but they were here, so let's not worry about it. Okay, I need to basically for decode it and then pass it back into itself. Okay, still nothing. That is annoying. Why aren't you working? Okay, let's just start fresh. Often it's the fix. Let's take all the content, let's just remove it. Alright, cool. Let's remove the first line. Okay. And let's remove the last line. Okay. And now let's remove this. Okay. And then we want to go ahead and remove the new line. So it's all one. So here there's this like extra stuff. I guess we could do like that. Would that get it all? No, it's not quite what I want. \s plus. No. Okay, I will just see how it's. Okay, I see. Yeah. So maybe I want to get rid of the tabs. No, apparently it's not a tab. Okay, let me undo this. Let me remove this first. Yep, cool. Okay, right. Is there any spaces? There are no spaces. Okay, \n and remove. Is that messing it up? I feel like maybe it's ruining the order. I'm trying to be extra careful because it was messing me up before, so I don't want it to do it again. Okay, let's have another go. Okay, yeah, that should be good now. Alrighty, let's have another go. Hit save, and hopefully we actually have it working this time. Let's go ahead and just check it for sanity. Yep, cool, looks okay to me. Go ahead and base64 decode it. There we go, now it is working. So now we didn't get an error, which is cool. And then go to key pass to John. Cool. And we want to go ahead and pilot to hash 2. And then we want to go John hash 2 word list equals user share word lists rocky. Should have cat hash 2. Oh, I know why it's not working. It's because we need to remove this, remove the code, remove the creds off the front. Cool. Now we should be able to do it. Okay, cool. So if we go ahead and cat the hash, and then we go to John hash 2, hit enter. Okay. Still annoyingly the same error. Not quite sure why that isn't working. Let me go ahead and just have another go. That should work, but it isn't. John hash 2. Okay, maybe it's just being weird. It's possible that it maybe has already cracked it or something. Oh yeah, it has cracked it. Yeah, I guess it was just being weird. I don't know why it glitched, but anyways, yeah. So that's basically the password in our case. So the password to it is mahaukita. I'm going to go ahead and save that. Go and put it in here. Key pass 2. Cool. Go ahead and hit save. Cool. I go into here. Go into my key pass. Go ahead and open file, go to the one of these. Is it this one? We'll know if it errors or not. Cool, that works. Now we have an SSH cred. Evasion, go to trying to open the actual entry, and then here we should have the password. Guan, I don't even know what, Guan Chekanarion, I don't know. Go to put the password there, and take the evasion. and then go to here. Okay, so now we have some SSH creds. Sweet. So, we copy. Alright, so now we have the SSH creds. That is the user, pretty much pwned. Go ahead and just minimize everything so it doesn't get in the way. And then the real fun can start once we get into Active Directory stuff, which is just, I like that stuff, so yeah. Alright, cool, open the new one, we'll call it SSH so we know what we're dealing with, cool. SSH, we'll call, it needs to be evasion, for evasion. Annoyingly, it's not kept our, I know we're still having an out thingy, cool. Cool, go ahead and paste, and then @box, cool, pass it the password, which in our case is Juanitron, I don't know, Guan Check Ninarion, I have no idea. Paste. Alright, cool. Sweet. So now we have SSH, which is cool. Go ahead and say type desktop user.txt. And that's because users desktop should give me what I'm after. There should be a desktop in here, right? I'm probably messing something up. Duh. Yeah, no, looks right to me. Desktop / user.txt. I don't know. Well, let's just cd into it. cd desktop. Clear the screen. Clear the background stuff. Cool. Yeah, there is a user.txt. I don't know why it doesn't work, but whatever. Sweet, and then there's the user, which is cool. Alright, so moving on, we can go ahead and move on to the next step. So let's go ahead and do some enumeration, cd to the root, and see what we're dealing with. So we have a folder called developers. If I go to net user, we can see all the users. We have OXDF, administrator, all this, and that. If I go to net, I think it's the net user groups. No, a net group, I think it is, net group. Yeah, so we have administrators and we have developers. Now, one could make a pretty loud assumption that developers has access to the developers directory, which is here. So that's probably something interesting to look at. And often when it's developers, often there's a code that isn't, solidified or secure or whatever, or maybe it contains creds, etc. All right, cool. So often when I'm on an AD box, the first thing I want to do is get my AD tools onto said box. So let's do that. So I'm going to go ahead and exit, and I'm going to use scp. It doesn't seem to remember my stuff, but that's okay. Go to, I should have sharphound. Should have sharphound available to me in this directory. I think, yep, cool. scp, and then wants to be evasion. Could have done with his name. It's just a well, his or her name. I could have done with their name just because it's a complicated name. Let's just run that, cool. Evasion at box, cool. That isn't going to work because you haven't specified where to put it. We want to put it into we want to put it into their directory. So in that case, C users evasion, and then we'll put it like downloads, and then we'll name it, I don't know, sharphound.ps1. Cool. We'll know it works if it prompts this password, which we'll pull out now. Okay. Sweet, that has now downloaded. All right, so I need to go ahead and do what I need to go do now is go into the box, and I'm actually gonna do myself a favor. Actually, if we're using sharphound, we're probably gonna want to use powerview as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and move powerview over there as well. I might have powerview already in this directory. I do not. No worries. I'm gonna go ahead and cp. Actually, I need to locate powerview.ps1. That will do me. Copy, and then I want to go ahead and just move it over to the box, because if we're using bloodhound, which is a tool used for AD enumeration and graphing and that kind of thing, we're probably going to want to use powerview to do some of the commands because it makes life easier. And then we'll call it pw.ps1. Just saves us a little bit of time in the having to go back and forward. We'll use this top terminal as our transfer terminal. Cool. All right, let's go ahead and remove this. Cool. Minimize. All right, so that's now done. SSH evasion. Oh, so annoying. This person's name. Give me the name. I don't know if we're going to need any more terminals actually. SSH version. Any more file uploads, but you never know. Okay, cool. So go ahead and log in as that user. Cool. We're now logged in. Or apparently not. Did I paste it wrong? Okay, cool. We're now logged in. CD into downloads. Cool. We then want to run PowerShell. So we can then import the module. We want to get import module. I press tab and now my box is seizing. I'll be 1 second. Cool, import module, and then just going to call it just sharphound. That's now imported. Then we want to go ahead and invoke bloodhound. Cool. What this will do is it will drop a zip in here. You'll see the zip. You want to go and grab that zip from here. So go into here, go and find the smaller one. We want to go and grab that exact file. And you go ahead now and switch this around. So we'll remove all this stuff, and then we'll put this here. Cool. That has now. We'll move it over in a second. Copy, paste, and now that has moved, which is sweet. Okay. Moving on, we now need to go ahead and fire up bloodhound. So let's go put a new one. I like to have all like my tabs like almost like separated, so it's easy just to see what's doing what, so I'm not switching between everything. So right. Next on the agenda is bloodhound. Now I need to go ahead and start the Neo4j console first, if it isn't already running. Okay, looks okay, hasn't thrown an error at me yet, so it obviously isn't running yet. And then I need to go ahead and then run bloodhound. Okay. Yep, log in. I think it's Neo4j bloodhound. And that's the password. Okay, ignore this for the moment. Let me go ahead and just purge my database. I want to go ahead and clear the database. Yep, cool. Just to avoid any overlap. Cool. All right, going to go ahead and now upload the data. Go to this one. Go to the bloodhound. Upload. Cool. Okay, so often when you're doing an AD assessment, the aim is to get access to the. 1 second, my dog's just coming at the door. I'll be 1 second. Okay, so assuming my video is actually playing and recording, sweet. Basically, we have this bloodhound data, and as I was saying, when you're doing an AD assessment, it's important to almost have a few different eyes on a few different targets. So, in my case, just looking at the whole AD, pressing enter here, we can see roughly some of the users in no particular order. I want to go ahead and use some of the queries, find all the domain admins, and basically see what there is. I want to go ahead and look at high value targets. So there's quite a lot of mess here. Okay, a few bits and pieces going on. You can see here that there's a few interesting users. We have evasion, which is us. If we mark this user as owned, we can then see there's a path here. So we can, from evasion, we can become DR.ZAIUS, which then puts us in the WinRM group. There's also another user called LOTHBROK, and basically if we can become LOTHBROK, we can then become basically admin of the machine, because we can do what's called a read LAPSPASSWORD. But that's a little bit ahead for the moment. Okay, so we need to basically get from here to there and see what we can do. But also it's worth mentioning about the developers user. So if we look at the developers group, developers, and we go to right click and go to short stuff from here from owned, it might tell us what we can do. It does indeed. It says here that we are evasion, and we can go via generic all, do something to gain access to DR.ZAIUS. We can then do something else to access to superfume, which is then a member of developers. Now, there's no proof that being a member of developer will give us any benefit to anything, but of course, it's always worth trying to basically get as many users as possible. Now, if we look back at the high value targets, we can see that we have LOTHBROK, and LOTHBROK is a member of this group. Now, what if we were to say, look at shortest paths to LOTHBROK, right? Well, actually, we can see here if we look at the other users, here's us, DR.ZAIUS, we become WinRM. But we can't, we can access this machine, but we can't really do much more, really. We'd have to own this user to get to there and that kind of thing. So it wouldn't really work. We're not the users group. But what we can do, we can see there's a superfume and an SVC service. I'm trying to look at the group of superfume. You can see that within there should be a group. So superfume is a member of these groups. No, that's not what I wanted. I wanted to look at the developers group. Trying to find the members of direct members. So there are two members of this group. We have superfume and we have Jari. Now, if we were to say own Jari, mark user as owned, and then we tried to get to LOTHBROK, and then we can then go shortest path from owned. Actually, now we have a path. So Jari to GibDN, to account operators, to LOTHBROK, and then LOTHBROK to owning the machine. But that's a little bit ahead. So we're going to unmark this user for the moment, and we're going to walk forward before we start running. Okay, so first thing we need to basically do is look into owning the superfume user. So let's go to superfume, right click, go to shortest path here from owned, and simply all we need to do is use generic all. Now we can go to right click help and go to abuse info and basically see how to own this machine. Not this machine, this user. We can see here basically the way that a bloodhound tells what we can do is here we can create basically a session as that user. Is there a bit above that? Yeah. A session as that user, a credential as that user, and then we can then invoke that on the other user. Basically changing its password or whatever. But I don't like the one above, so I like this one below instead. We basically can we create a credential of our user, our evasion user. We don't really need to because we're already logged in as that user though, so not massively necessary at this moment. Anyways, we basically create a credential with the evasion user. We then create up a secure user password. We have to do this via Windows. It used to be a secure string, and then we overwrite the password simply. So to summarize, basically our user evasion can change the password of DR.ZAIUS. And because we're already logged in as evasion, we don't need to do any credential stuff. But when we then take over DR.ZAIUS, we will need to do that. But we'll talk about that later. Okay, so let's make a start on there. So if I go ahead and right click here, and not here, go to right click here and go to help, go to abuse info. I want to go and take the bottom line basically. Set domain user password, okay? And we can put that into here. All right, so in this case, we're using this credential part. We don't need that because we're already logged in as that user, as evasion. But before we can do that, we need to first import the module. So in order to import the module, simply we'll go to import module. Now I already uploaded powerview, so powerview is what we're using to run these to run the commands. This didn't work because we didn't specify it locally, I guess. There we go. Now we can do stuff like extra commands. For example, this set domain user password. Now we need to set the user password first. Actually, in Bloodhound, let's just basically take this, copy, paste this above, user password, password 123. Cool. So to prove this worked, let's open up a new terminal below. Let's make this smaller and make this smaller. And let's go to CrackMapExec. I want to use SMB as the user DR.ZAIUS with the password of, I think it was like password 1, right? And we can see that it won't work. Watch. It doesn't work, okay? So we can't do anything there, but if we go ahead and follow this, go ahead and remove the line. We go ahead and follow this. Because we're already running as evasion, we don't need to invoke the credential, but we can go ahead and just run this simply. Hit enter. Unable to find any user Andy. That is because I didn't update the user to be DR.ZAIUS. DR.ZAIUS. Enter. Now if you run SMB, now it should work. See the difference? Now we have a green plus, which basically means we now own that user, and we can invoke commands as that user, using that credential thing we mentioned a minute ago. Okay, so what's next? So we own ZAIUS, go to bloodhound, close, right-click, mark user as owned. What's next? Generic all on superfume. Okay, cool. Right-click, help, generic all, abuse info, scroll right to the bottom, we'll take what we need again. This time we do need to actually create a credential, because actually we need to become DR.ZAIUS and invoke the commands as DR.ZAIUS. Zoom out a little bit so we can see this a little bit better. Okay, so create secure password. In our case, password 123 exclamation mark is fine, because that is the password of DR.ZAIUS. This needs to be, I think, PivotAPI, if I recall correctly. In fact, now I believe it needs to be the domain, not PivotAPI. Let me just grab that real quick. I have it in my notes. So I spell it right. It needs to be Licor di Bellota, and then needs to be DR.ZAIUS. Cool. Then we can remove this line here. And then user password, that is fine, that can stay the same. And then set domain username, this needs to be superfume. Okay. Let's go ahead and check the sec password convert to secure string, pass on to free. Cred new object system automation libcorder and sec password. User password convert to secure string to the dir, set password. Okay, that should hopefully work. Let's give it a run, see what happens. And again, before we do anything, let's go ahead and just check that it actually made a difference. So let's change DR.ZAIUS to be superfume. Okay, that didn't work. Now if we go ahead and run the same commands again, it should work this time. Yes, it looks like it should be okay. Let's go ahead and just make this small. Make this small. Hit enter. If we get an error, it didn't work. Cool. Let's go ahead and now run it again. And it should have worked here. So now we have access to superfume. Sweet. So now with superfume, basically we need to go ahead and invoke a session as superfume. Now, one interesting thing to note is that superfume, I believe, is part of the WinRM group. This is important because in order to invoke a session as that user, we need to go ahead and be able to invoke what is called a PS session. So we'll go to superfume, look at their user, look into the group memberships, look into the WinRM group, and see who WinRM group. Basically, the WinRM group can use PS session. I believe there's a reference to it in over here where it talks about this. It talks about not that one. This one talks about view word wrap. It talks here about basically they're stopped externally displaying WinRM service. Externally, so internally WinRM is enabled. But in order to do WinRM, you need to be part of the WinRM group, which if we look into the thingy here, net user superfume, we can see they are part of the WinRM group and the developers. If we do us, so if we do, God, I hate this person's name so much, net user evasion, they are not. They just have SSH, and that is it. Okay, so what do we do next? Well, now we need to invoke what's called a PS session. Now this requires a few extra lines of code, but it's not massively. Really, it's a case of just having, let me go ahead and remove this, minimize. We just have to have user pass, so basically our password to the user of superfume. Then we have to create a credential. which in our case is the same as we did before. That is working. If it didn't work, we'd get an error. Go ahead and now run a new PS session. Basically, this creates a session object. You should now see it's available there. Go ahead and just make it a bit smaller so we can see better. And then we can see here the ID of 1, and then we need to basically just invoke that session. So in our case, go ahead and hit enter. And now if we do who am I, we should now be superfume. And indeed we are. Sweet. So now with superfume, we can now access, hopefully, the developers directory, which we can. And then if we go to, say, gci-r, which is basically equal to like recursive directory list, there's 2 files, program.cs and restart-mssql.exe. I'm going to go ahead and make this a little bit easier for myself. I'm going to go ahead and make a temporary directory. Cool. I'm going to go ahead and then cp developers jari. Can I do a star? I should be able to do a star and then into temp. That should work. And then dir temp. Yeah, cool. That's now we did it. Now we can go ahead and use the SSH SCP to steal the file basically. Let's go ahead and do that. So we'll go ahead and remove this part to TMP and then basically just grab this. We can take the program.cs too, but we don't really need it because we can do all the work using dnspy. Cool, we'll grab that and then we'll just store it here. Hit enter, go ahead and grab the password, which should be in here. Let's go ahead and check my... I've had to keep pausing in this episode, so I'm just checking that I'm actually recording, which would actually suck. Okay, yeah, all looks good to me. Go ahead and grab the password, which is... I still can't say it, Gowana or something. Enter, and that should now download it. Sweet. So now we have restart-mssql.exe. Now if we go over to our Windows host, we should now have that in the folder. No, we don't, because we need to move it over. Move. What was it called? Move restart-mssql.exe to, I think it was SMB put, I guess. Yeah. We'll see. Go to my Windows, give it a refresh. Yeah, now we have this. So this is one we're after, restart-mssql.exe. I'm going to go ahead and save link as, and then go ahead and create a new directory, and we'll call it dev, right? For developers. Save that in there. Okay, so let's go ahead and just clean up a little bit here. Remove all this stuff. Discard the capture. Start from the beginning. Okay, so we have a file called restart-mssql. It is in my desktop. Is it in HackTheBox? PivotAPI dev. Okay, right. So there it is. In my case, I want to go ahead and open this in dnspy. Okay, so we need to go ahead and basically import this into dnspy. So I can't open up dnspy directly via that, so we need to go ahead and open up dnspy. Okay, so go ahead and take a look at, go ahead and clear these. Remove 2 assemblies, go ahead and open. Go ahead into here. Apologies, this video has been a bit rocky. I've had lots of distractions. I'm trying to get this done on my lunch break at work. So yeah. Anyways, so go back to what I was saying. Go to my desktop. Go into HackTheBox. Go into PivotAPI. Go into my dev. Go into restart-mssql, and we can see here we can actually read the content. This is actually being decompilable, and we can have a look at the contents. So let's have a look. So this is some kind of ASCII content, and we basically want to have a look at what's happening. So this is the main. There's not much else other than the main program. We want to go ahead and basically just read each line. So here we have a byte array, and we are getting the bytes of this string. We're then creating another byte array. Well, actually, we're taking this and assigning this to a byte array. Then we have a data variable, which is also byte array, and we're assigning these bytes to it. Okay. Then we're taking the byte array, and then we're taking the value of the data. So in this case, if we highlight over decrypt, we have, if you look here, we have byte, pwd, and byte data. So the pwd is byte, so that's password. The password in this case is CR is a crybaby. In the case of this, basically the key is a byte array, and then the data is also a byte array. And then we're basically just running some stuff, starting a service, and that kind of ends there. So what I want to do is I basically want to look into the code and figure out how it's working. The first few lines pretty much give me what I need, but honestly it's a case of being able to actually look at the content. So if we go ahead and set a breakpoint here, say like there, I go ahead and hit start. Yep, okay. We'll see it hits in. We can see basically the data. Now, unfortunately, the nspy it doesn't seem to like it when I edit the code, and when I edit the code and rerun it, even though I have set in my assembly in my edit assembly, I have set it into debug mode. It actually comes like this by standard, but also you want to have this if you want to be able to debug it. For one reason, the nspy isn't enjoying me doing that. So I'm going to have to work a little bit differently in this case. I'm going to have to basically export this to a Visual Studio project and work from there. So, okay, so back to what I was saying. Basically, the nspy is let me pause, put a breakpoint in the executable, and we can read all the content. This data isn't readable, but in this case, the array, this is basically the password. If we take this data and we convert this data back into a string, it will give us what we're after. Unfortunately, the dnspy doesn't like it if I try to inject it in there. Even if I go to edit, go to edit method, and then just basically take this console.readline, and I want to then recompile the array. In my case, I'm just going to simply go ahead and just grab it from my notes. I want to simply just tab console write line encoding UTF get strings. Basically, this UTF-8 encodes the output of get string. Array is basically the array of the bytes, which is equal to the data of the decrypted password. 0 to the length of the so this is like the offset to the length of the array. Basically, what it does is it puts the array back together as a string. It just converts the array to a string simply, and then UTF-8 encodes it. If I go ahead and compile that, funnily enough, actually, it has actually written it. It often doesn't do that, but I want to be able to basically read it. So I'm going to go ahead and hit stop. I'm going to go ahead and cancel this here. Hit play. Maybe it will work this time. It didn't work for me last time, but we'll find out. Really, we should be seeing some content get printed out here. For some reason it doesn't. Whereas if I do the same thing in, say, VS Code, it does actually work. So to avoid wasting time, I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go ahead and go to File, Export to Project, and we'll just put it back in its own project. We'll just put the dev folder. Cool. Export. Sweet. Go to Restart Oracle, to here, open in Visual Studio. Okay, go to program.cs and simply just paste in that other line again. So actually we already have it, funny enough. If we now go ahead and just hit start, we should now get to the password, which is this. Cool. Sweet, so I want to go ahead and go back over to my Kali and save it there. Go over here, go to here, and then put the thingy in here. So it should be the Jari, that's the password. So just to summarize what we did there, basically we had an executable. I chucked it into dnspy. Dnspy was being weird and wouldn't let me write directly to the exe and let it print out normally, but it was no worries because what we can simply do after that is just open it in VS Code, VS Studio, Visual Studio Code, and run it that way, and then it works. If I hit play now, it should work. You'll see there's password, but if I run it in dnspy, despite having the line of code in there, it's not being shown. So it's obviously like glitching to some degree, but yeah, basically what that's allowed us to do is print out the password before print it out to us. Okay, cool. So now we have Jari. Let's go ahead and use the same technique we've used in all the previous attempts, so basically log in as Jari. But before we do that, we want to go ahead and tell Bloodhound that we own Jari. Cool. Right click, mark user as owned. Go over to I think we were after, is it LOTHBROK? Yep. Right click, shortest path to here from owned, and it says here that if we as Jari change the password of gibdian, we can then change the password of LOTHBROK. Okay, so simply same sort of thing. I want to go ahead and check out the abuse info. We simply want to create a session as Jari and then run this command here. And this is literally the same as we've ran before, so all we can do here is basically just copy this line, put a break in between, and then update it so it no longer says this, it now says Jari, and then also set the password to be chung. Make sure you paste it in right. Paste, yep, so that's the right password, that's the right user. We want to go ahead and change superfume to be LOTHBROK. Okay, cool, that should now be okay. We go ahead and copy this. Okay, go back over to our SSH session, which is here. We're still logged in as superfume or superfume. I'm going to go ahead and close this in the background. Okay, go ahead and paste. Hit enter. We got an error because LOTHBROK doesn't exist. Basically some kind of error in our case. Go ahead and just check what it is exactly we did wrong. I'm going to go ahead and just copy the error. I can. Probably something. It says I'm getting an access denied. Maybe it's because I've missed something or messed something up along the way. No worries, I'm going to go ahead into my Google Translate and just basically check the errors here. Error setting password for this user LOTHBROK, calling set password of arguments, access is denied. Okay, it's possible that it's possible that the command is slightly different in Bloodhound. I recall it not being any different, but I'm going to go ahead and just copy it anyway, in case it is different. Go ahead and hit paste. Change this to be... Oh no, it's not LOTHBROK, sorry, it's gibdian. My bad, gibdian. That should now work. Okay, that was my bad. So actually, just to prove that actually worked, let me go ahead and just change the user password to be like that. Then set the password there, and then go ahead and use SMB CrackMap to then log in as gibdian. Gibdian, it won't work. Or apparently it will work. I don't know why it worked, but for some reason it still works, I guess. I should have changed it, but I guess it didn't. It's weird that it actually worked despite yeah, there we go. Now it doesn't work, right? So now if I change the password back to be an incorrect one, back to be the same one as all the other ones, it should now work. Enter. And then go to gibdian, and then now run it. And it should now work. Yeah, and it now works, sweet. So now we own gibdian, which is cool. Close, go to mark user as owned. Now we're part of the account operators if we use gibdian, and then basically we want to go ahead and use the same thing as we did before, except this time we want to go ahead and run it as gibdian and basically just change the password of LOTHBROK. So we can pretty much run the same commands again, except this time we want to go ahead and take what I had before. We go ahead and just update this to be, actually this is probably right. I can copy this, put it there. Brain is not working. Do that there. Change this to be gibdian, and then we should now be able to just paste this. Actually, change this to be gibdian. Control this, and basically what we're doing is we're executing these commands as the other user, and that should hopefully grant us higher and higher up the chain. Go ahead and just minimize this and minimize that. Hit paste and hit enter to check that it's all right. Yep. In our case, actually, we need to set the password. Let me just go ahead and update this properly. So we need to change this to be password 1 because we changed it since it's not quite right. Cool. Right, yep. Now let's run it. I like to run these things from fresh, so I know where I'm at. Okay, cool. Right, cool. Paste. Hit enter. No error. But now do LOTHBROK. That should now work. And indeed it does. Okay. So now we're at the final stage. Now we are LOTHBROK, which is basically one away from owning the entire machine. Okay. So mark user as owned. Go to where is it now? Go to LOTHBROK. I want to go ahead and look at his external execution rights, the outbound control, group delegated control. That should now give him access to read the lapse password. So I literally clicked on his name, went to the outbound control. So outbound control means that he can do something to something else. And the group rights, because he's part of the lapse read, he can then do that. And then simply I can just go to right click here, go to help, go to abuse info. And all we have to do really is just log, create a credential as LOTHBROK, and then run this command. So let's grab that. Put some hyphens, put the bottom one down there. We'll take the top two is what we need. Paste that there, and then change this from gibdion to LOTHBROK. And yep, that should be okay. We just change Windows 1 to be the host name of the machine, so PivotAPI, and that should now work. Okay. Now, when this works, what we can do now is, what we can then do is get access to the admin. Go ahead and minimize this, paste. If we don't get any errors, it has worked. There's the password to the admin. Sweet. So we're basically at the enter. I go ahead and pop this over here. Administrator. I think it has an O at the end. Yep, cool. And we can go ahead and test this works by simply just changing this to be the password in here. Yep, I think there's an O, right? I think I missed. Nope, okay, never mind them. Go ahead and then send administrator. And then that should work. Yep, see it worked. If I then go ahead and add like an A there, it shouldn't work. You can see, yep. So that proves it worked, and then we can then execute whatever we want. Now, we can't SSH into the user yet because SSH isn't enabled for that user. But what we can do is we can say do like run, so the X says, hey, I want you to run a PowerShell command. And we can see here that it's telling us that we are NTOR when it comes back to us. As you can see, we are Liko Dibelota administrator. Cool. So that's that. So what do we do next? Well, we can run CrackMap and do that, or we can use psexec. Now psexec can be you can use psexec if you are admin, because basically the way that psexec works is it needs SMB to be open and for you to have permission to write to the C share. So for example, if I go to SMB and go to like, I think it's like if I go to, is it like -- shares, I guess? I think it's -- shares. We can see here we have access to the C share, and if you have access to the C share, then I'm pretty sure you can write the file which allows you to do a psexec. If not the admin share too, I'm pretty sure it's the C share, but yeah, you basically need to be admin to do that. Okay. Anyway, so finally, we want to go ahead and basically run psexec. Simply, what we want to do is just do psexec administrator, the password at the machine, hit enter, and that didn't work. Not quite sure why. Maybe because the password has changed. This is from a previous from my previous notes. Hit paste, and that should now work. Cool. You can see here actually, look, requesting shares on PivotAPI, found variable share in admin. Turns out we were using the admin share, uploading file, this exe. Basically, it creates as effectively a shell, and then we have psexec reverse shell effectively, which is cool. And then we go ahead and be like, who am I? And we are NT authority system, which is sweet. Okay, so how do we get access to SSH? Well, we need to first of all cd into users, into downloads, and basically invoke powerview. cd, goddamn, cd users, cd, the cd into evasion, and then did I do something wrong? cd into evasion. Okay, yeah. cd into downloads. Okay, and then we now can do import with PowerShell, import module pw.ps1. That's probably not going to work because I need to do that ps. Okay, that has now worked. We have a prompt, so it kind of proves it works. And then finally, we need to go ahead and basically just add SSH to that user. To prove it worked, I'm going to go ahead and exit out of all this. Go SSH administrator at box. Nope. At box. Like I said, I'm trying to get this in my lunch hour. I'm a little bit over, but I'll make up for after work. Now we need to use the password, which is here. Hit paste. It didn't work. For reasons, maybe it's because I messed up the command administrator at PivotAPI. Okay, that doesn't seem to work, which is probably what I want. And then I go ahead and use powerviews module to say add domain group member identity SSH member to administrator. Now if I run this again, it should now work using the same password, hopefully. Nope. Administrator. Maybe I spelled the name wrong. That should work, but I'll go ahead and just copy the username. It's possible I just messed up the name. Okay, let's have another go. Okay, for some reason the password won't work. I don't know why. Who am I? Add domain group member identity SSH members administrator. That should work, but it doesn't seem to want to. Wonder why that is. SSH administrator at box. It should work. I mean, I literally used it before and it was fine. Maybe I'm copying this wrong or something. Okay, permission denied, please try again. Okay. For some reason the password isn't working. I don't really know why. I mean, you can see here if I use the same password, it works. So for some reason it isn't working. SSH should work because I've added it to the group. But I'm going to leave it at that anyways. The command should work, and you saw it working here because it didn't throw an error when you ran it. The add domain group member identity SSH members to administrator. But actually, if I even do net user administrator, should now see that it's part of the SSH group, which means they can SSH. But obviously, for some reason, it isn't working. I'm going to have one more go because it's kind of driving me crazy that it isn't letting me authenticate. Okay, one more try. I think I can mess that one up. Okay, yep. It doesn't want to work, but it should work. But at the end of the day, we have PsExec access, so it's okay. We can't use either WinRM because the WinRM, I think it's like port 5, or I forget, it's like port 5.9 something 5. 5395, something like that, I can't remember now. For WinRM isn't enabled, so we can't use that. But obviously we can use PsExec, we can use SMB, and we can also apparently use SSH, but it doesn't want to work. Cool, so I'm going to leave it at that before I overplay my lunchtime, and thanks for watching. Hopefully it made some sense. Apologies for the hiccups I had during. I was trying to be quick, but also had some hiccups, and yeah, it was all good fun. But like I say, thanks for watching. Hit like and subscribe. Feel free to comment anything you want. Any feedback. Honestly, anything is appreciated. And cool. So I'll catch you in the next one. Take care, everyone. Bye.